Hi, this is Jane Ratliff with Blue Hair Technology Group, and today I'm going to talk about an app that comes standard on many iPhones and iPads. Sometimes you have to download it from the iTunes Store, but it's a great app, especially for those of you who remember the radio shows back from the 40s and 50s and how you would tune in to a great radio show that you just love to hear. The app that we're talking about is called Podcast, the Podcast app, and podcasts are pre-recorded audio shows and sometimes video shows that you can listen to on your iPad or iPhone totally free. So let's look for that iPad app right now. It's purple, so it really stands out, and it says podcasts on it. So swipe around on your phone, as we typically do. Swipe around and see if you can find that podcast app. And when you do find the podcast app, let's go ahead and tap on it. When you first open up the podcast app, you're going to see 5 different features or functionality at the bottom of your app. And that's what we're going to go through first so you can understand how the app works. So the first category or first section is called Unplayed. Now for most of you, if you've never used the podcast app before, you're not going to have anything in Unplayed because you haven't subscribed or you haven't downloaded any podcasts yet. So it probably is 0, although you can see that mine has a badge of 29, I think that says. That means I have 29 unplayed episodes, podcast episodes, that I've subscribed to. Next to that says My Podcasts. After that, Featured. Now for those of you who've used the App Store a lot before, featured is a very common term. It's the featured apps, it's the ones that Apple wants to promote to you. So features are sometimes very exciting to look at. Another one you could look at is Top Charts, and that's going to be, again, just like the App Store. Of all the people out there in the world that are downloading podcasts, what are the top ones? That's always a great one to go to. And the very last category is Search, and that's where you can search for a podcast that someone has told you about, such as a PBS podcast, or perhaps a CNN podcast or an NPR podcast. So all of those are out there for you. So become familiar, tap on the different icons down there so you can see how they're structured. You're going to see a lot of similarities between this and the App Store, since what you're really doing is sort of like downloading an app with a podcast. So the first option that I'm going to select is the featured or the star category. So when you tap on that star, up comes the featured podcasts that Apple wants to let you know about. Typically these are the newer ones or possibly more popular ones. And again, if you look at the screen, you'll see the screen. It looks very similar to the App Store. And it is set up that way. So if you use the App Store a lot, you're not going to have any problems using the podcast store or featured section. At the top, you're going to see those featured podcasts that they really want you to know about. Then underneath it, you'll see New and Noteworthy. And if you keep swiping up, you see a category called Buzzed About, Black Lives, Featured Collections, etc. So there is lots and lots as you scroll through. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg because there's so many of them. I think a really important thing to see on the featured section also, and just like in the App Store, is the section at the top left called Categories. I'm going to go ahead and tap on Categories. This helps narrow down the podcasts that you are interested in finding out about. So there's arts, there's business, education, games and hobbies, etc. And as you scroll through, you see that there is a lot of categories. So let's just go ahead and tap on one that might be fun. How about news and politics? So if we tapped on news and politics, up comes a new page. You'll see more information about podcasts related to news and politics. And let's swipe through. So we've got New and Noteworthy, What's Hot, and then All Podcasts. Additionally, at the top right, next to New and Noteworthy, you're going to see a little command that says See All. If you tap on See All, you'll get to see all of the podcasts that are in that category. So this is a great way to explore what's out there. So I highly encourage you to do that. Remember to go back, tap top left. Top left will take you back one to news and politics, and then you could tap on category and even go to another category. Another great, and I think probably the best way to find out some of the best podcasts that are out there is in the next section called Top Charts. So let's go ahead and tap on the Top Charts section. The top charts are going to list the most listened to podcasts. And as you see, I'm on the top charts, and I can swipe up, and you'll actually find that there are, let's swipe all the way to the bottom. Let's see how many they give us. The top 150 podcasts. So this is a great way to go through and find out, man, what are people listening to? Now, this is across all categories. So let's see the first one. The first one says Mouse Chat News. It's a Disney podcast. Fresh Air. Now, everyone has heard, or most people have heard of Fresh Air from NPR. So let's say that that was a podcast that I wanted to listen to. I wanted to hear the most recent NPR broadcasts. So what you do is just like what you do with an app. You're going to tap on it. So I'm going to tap on Fresh Air. And again, you're going to see something that's very similar to the App Store. So let's look at this and see what we see. First of all, we get ratings. So there's over 2,000 people that love the Fresh Air app. You can see the word subscribe. So if we tap subscribe, we assume that we're going to be subscribing to this channel. You find all of the different podcasts. This is a list of the different podcasts. This also tells you how many minutes long that podcast is going to be. So the first one that I'm looking at is a Donald Trump one. The next one is a glimpse inside the real Russia. If we looked at that one, we could tell that that's going to be 48 minutes and 28 seconds if we listen to it. To download it or to get it onto our device, it doesn't take us that long. So you can actually download individual podcasts if you wanted to by tapping on the cloud, which we'll do in a minute. Or if you hit the subscribe button up at the very top, you're going to have access to all of the podcasts. And you're going to be alerted when a new podcast is posted for you to listen to. So let's go ahead and select a podcast that we just want to listen to right now. We don't need to subscribe to the channel. Let's say we want to test it out. So let's go down to this one called Inside an Oakland Motorcycle Club. So if I just tap the name of the podcast, watch what happens.
Indeed.com/fresh to post a free job.
You see down here,
Terms and job quality.
there is our very standard player. That's where I can stop it by tapping that little purple button. So down here, it's actually what's called streaming. Not on my phone. It is not physically on my phone for me to listen to later. Now, if I wanted to actually download it on my phone, that's where you get into what's the download over here, which looks like the cloud. So if I tap on that cloud, you're going to see a familiar friend, which is the circle. The circle which demonstrates, as you see it here, the actual download of that podcast to your device. When it's finished downloading, you have the big play button. And now you can actually tap the play button and listen to it just like we were listening to it before, but it's actually on your device and it will be part and stored in the My Podcasts section of the podcast app. So let's just go ahead and hit play and see what happens.
Angry boy.
So it's still playing down here, but remember now it's actually on your phone. You're not streaming it. I wanted to show you where you can find all of those podcasts that you decide to tap the cloud and actually download on your iPad or iPhone. So remember we had talked about these very important sections of the podcast app. Well, this is where that comes into play. So there is a section called My Podcasts that we're going to tap on. And I have a couple of other podcasts on there that I listen to, but you can see right here that I have not subscribed to it. And you remember, I didn't subscribe to it, which would have given me access to all of the podcasts. I decided I just wanted one, just to download one. And that's what it shows here. It says Fresh Air, 1 unplayed episode. And there's also one called Stuff You Should Know, which is actually a pretty interesting one, that I've subscribed to. And I haven't been keeping up with it, so I have 34 unplayed episodes that I haven't listened to yet, so I better get started. But that's where this My Podcast comes into play. So when you download podcasts, this is where you'd want to come to find the ones you've downloaded and go directly to the one you want to listen to. Now, the one section that we have not talked about is the search section, and that is a wonderful place to go, just like search is a wonderful place to go in the App Store. So I'm going to tap on search. And it's pretty boring. It's the search field, right? Our standard search field. So what do? You actually are going to type something in. So let's say that your friend just told you about an awesome podcast, and it's called Twit. Now, it's really called This Week in Technology. but everyone calls it Twit. If you love technology and want to know about what's good, what's not good, tips and tricks, it's a great one to find out about. So I'm actually going to type in Twit. T-W-I-T. And voila! Up comes Twit TV right at the front. So let's go ahead and tap on Twit TV and see what we get. So what comes up is a menu of all of their podcasts, as well as what they call podcast episodes, which are probably longer. So you have podcasts that are probably short, and then episodes might be one of their episode series, which could be an hour in length. So you see various ones across the top. You can come down to some podcast episodes if you wanted to. You could click up here, see all. Remember our see all option, where we can see all of them. This will give you some more information about it. So we could just come down, and a great one is called Before You Buy. So Before You Buy is a great one to listen to and find out, gosh, if you're about ready to buy something and they're reviewing it, they're going to tell you which ones are good and which ones aren't. So if we wanted to get Before You Buy, we'd tap on Before You Buy, and then we will then either subscribe to the episode Before You Buy, and we'll get information every week about what they're talking about, or we can actually swipe through and figure out if there's one that we would be interested in listening to. So let's swipe through and find one that might be interesting. Let's see what I'd be interested in. Let's say I was interested in learning a little bit more about the Samsung Galaxy. So you could go ahead and download. So let's go ahead and tap on that. And you can see again that little circle that's telling us it's downloading. It might take a little bit of time, but it's circling down, and eventually it's actually on your phone. That is a lot about the most important aspects of the podcast app. There are millions of fabulous podcasts out there available to you, and I encourage you to get out there and listen to it. You really will enjoy it. I'm Jane Ratliff with Blue Hair Technology Group.